European leaders say they're pleased there's a new peace deal for Ukraine, but they're showing only cautious optimism. The leaders of France and Germany flew straight from their negotiations with Russia and the Ukrainian rebels to a European summit meeting in Brussels. The French president says it's important to keep up the pressure on Russia and the rebels. And the German chancellor spoke of, quote, a glimmer of hope, no more, no less. My next guest says Putin got everything he wanted out of this deal. Andrei Illarionov was Vladimir Putin's chief economic advisor from 2000 to 2005, and he joins me from our studio in Washington. Andrei, always a pleasure to have you on the program because I think your insight is just so valuable. And I'm hearing German Chancellor Angela Merkel say, you know, there's a glimmer of hope, and yet you're saying Putin won. Why?
Because he really got almost everything that he wanted. The only one positive thing from this so-called agreement is the potential ceasefire. But even this ceasefire is postponed for almost 3 days, and we don't know yet what could happen during these almost 3 days, and especially with almost 8,000 Ukrainian military encircled near Debaltseve. And they can be used as a hostage and the card by Mr. Putin in this game. But in all other areas, he got almost everything. He did not give control of a border to Ukrainian government, and it has been postponed until the end of year 2015 under very peculiar circumstances that Ukraine should introduce changes into constitution, the so-called constitutional reform, and de facto recognize the regime in those two republics, because all the so-called people's militia, the courts, the prosecutor office, all of them will be appointed by these locals, not by Kiev. And actually, this agreement does not cover those hostages or POW that have been kidnapped by Russia and being kept on the Russian territory, including Nadia Savchenko. So if we look into each of these decisions, it is quite remarkable how much Mr. Putin got. He got even more than in Transnistria, because Transnistria is forced to finance itself by itself or with help of Russia. But in this case, Kiev is enforced to finance all those separatists.
Isn't there incentive, though, for Vladimir Putin to agree and adhere to this ceasefire? And as you say, yes, we have to wait 3 days, more than 70 hours before it actually kicks in, because the U.S. is now just saying that it is prepared to consider rolling back sanctions on Russia if these agreements are, you know, fully implemented.
No, definitely there is no any sign of that, because all obligations have been taken by Ukraine. It's more than 20 points of different obligations. Russia did not take a single obligations on itself. Russia is not recognized as aggressor. Russia is not forced to withdraw its troops from Ukrainian territory. Russia, or Mr. Putin actually personally, broke the almost full isolation that was growing since Brisbane G20 summit. Now, leaders of democratic countries are coming to Moscow or to Minsk and shaking hands with him and signing joint declarations. So it's quite a substantial victory for him. And frankly speaking, it's not only Ukraine is obliged to do something. Now, France and Germany are joining Ukraine in fulfilling obligations that they have gave to Mr. Putin. But Mr. Putin has no single obligations, neither to Ukraine nor to Europe.
Now, if you were still in that advisory capacity with Mr. Putin, what do you...
Fortunately not.
And I say that exactly, very loosely. He is putting 50 tanks, 40 missile systems, and 40 armored vehicles crossing into eastern Ukraine from Russia overnight. What do you read into that, if you could, you know, still get into his mind?
Actually, Mr. Putin himself expressed very clearly what he's going to do in the next probably 48 to 72 hours with all these probably up to 8,000 Ukrainian military near Debaltseve, because he clearly said that all those military should give up their arms. Otherwise, he's going to do something with them. And probably all this military equipment are going to be used against those Ukrainians that are near Debaltseve.
I want to thank you for your time, Andrei. I really appreciate it. Andrei Illarionov joining me from Washington.